Hash a prayer in the snow. The snow fell softly on Christmas Eve, blanketing the quiet street in white. Michael Harrison stood alone in his penthouse office, looking down at the city below. The lights twinkled like scattered diamonds, but they brought him no joy. He was 42 years old. He was a millionaire. And he was completely alone. Michael had built his software company from nothing. He had worked 18-hour days for 20 years. He had sacrificed friendships, relationships, and holidays. Now he had everything money could buy, but no one to share it with. His phone buzzed. Another business email. Another contract to review. He set it down without reading it. Outside his window, families walked together on the snowy sidewalks. Children pressed their faces against shop windows. Couples held hands under the streetlights. Michael watched them all with an ache in his chest he couldn't name. He grabbed his coat. He needed to get out of the office, away from the silence that reminded him how empty his life had become. The hospital parking lot was nearly full. Michael hadn't planned to come here, but his feet had carried him to the one place that felt familiar. His company had donated millions to this hospital over the years. It was good publicity, his advisors had said. But Michael had never actually walked through the doors. Until tonight. The lobby was warm and bright, decorated with a small Christmas tree. A few families sat in the waiting area, their faces marked with worry. Medical staff moved quietly through the halls, their shoes squeaking on the polished floors. Michael didn't know why he'd come inside. He stood awkwardly near the entrance, feeling out of place in his expensive suit and cashmere coat. Then he heard it. A small voice, barely above a whisper. "Please don't let my mommy die." Michael turned. In the corner of the lobby, kneeling on the floor with her hands pressed together, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old. Her blonde hair was pulled into lopsided pigtails. She wore a pink dress under a worn cream cardigan that was too small for her. In one arm, she clutched a gray stuffed rabbit. She was praying. "Please, please, please," the little girl whispered, her eyes squeezed shut. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'll be so good. I promise. Just don't let my mommy die." Michael's breath caught in his throat. He looked around the lobby, searching for someone, anyone who might be with this child. But she was completely alone. He approached slowly, careful not to startle her. When he was close enough, he knelt down beside her in the snow someone had tracked inside. "Hello there," he said softly. The little girl's eyes flew open. They were blue and filled with tears. She looked at him with such sadness that Michael felt his heart crack. "Are you an angel?" she asked in a trembling voice. Michael almost smiled, but the question was too sincere. "No, sweetheart. I'm just a man. My name is Michael. What's yours?" "Emma," she whispered. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "I'm praying for my mommy." "I heard," Michael said gently. "Where is your mommy now?" Emma pointed toward the elevator. "Upstairs. She's very sick. The doctors say she might die." Her voice broke on the last word, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "And where's your daddy? Or your grandparents?" Emma shook her head. "It's just me and mommy. Nobody else." She hugged her stuffed rabbit tighter. "Mr. Hops and me, we're praying really hard. But I don't think God is listening." Michael felt something shift inside him. This little girl, alone and afraid, praying in a hospital lobby on Christmas Eve. No child should have to face something like this. He reached out and gently took her small hand. "What if I go upstairs with you?" he asked. "Would that be okay?" Emma looked at him with those heartbreaking blue eyes. Then she nodded. The pediatric oncology ward was quieter than the lobby. A nurse at the desk looked up as Michael and Emma approached, hand in hand. "Emma, honey," the nurse said with surprise. "I thought you were with your mom." "I was praying downstairs," Emma said. "This is Michael. He's going to help." The nurse gave Michael a questioning look. Michael introduced himself and explained how he'd found Emma alone in the lobby. The nurse's expression softened. Emma's mother, Sarah, was admitted 3 days ago. Stage 4 cancer. It spread faster than anyone expected. She lowered her voice. She doesn't have much time. Maybe hours. Emma has been staying here because there's nowhere else for her to go. Michael felt anger rise in his chest, not at anyone in particular, but at the unfairness of it all. What about treatment, surgery, clinical trials? The nurse shook her head sadly. She needed treatment 6 months ago, but she couldn't afford it. No insurance. She kept working, kept pushing through, trying to provide for Emma. By the time she finally came in, it was too late. Michael looked down at Emma, who was studying her shoes. This child's mother was dying because she couldn't afford medical care. The injustice of it burned in his chest. Can I see her? Michael asked. The mother. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Room 412. But please, she's very weak. Emma led Michael down the hallway, her small hand still gripping his. She pushed open the door to room 412. The woman in the bed was thin and pale, her breathing shallow. But when she saw Emma, her face lit up with a love so fierce it made Michael's throat tighten. My baby, she whispered. I thought you were sleeping in the chair. I was praying, Mommy, Emma said, climbing carefully onto the bed. And I found Michael. He's going to help us. Sarah's eyes met Michael's, and in them he saw everything: love, exhaustion, fear, and acceptance. She knew she was dying. She was at peace with it. But the terror of leaving her daughter alone was written across her face. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered to Michael. She shouldn't have bothered you. She didn't bother me, Michael said, pulling a chair close to the bed. May I sit? Sarah nodded weakly. Michael sat down and leaned forward. Sarah, my name is Michael Harrison. I want to help. Whatever you need, whatever Emma needs, I can provide it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. It's too late for me, she said. The cancer has spread everywhere. But Emma, she'll be alone. She'll go into foster care. She'll forget me. No, Michael said firmly. She won't. The words came out before he'd even thought them through. But once they were spoken, he knew they were true. I'll take care of her, Michael said. If you'll allow it, I'll adopt Emma. She'll never want for anything. She'll get the best education, the best life. And I promise you, I will tell her every single day how much her mother loved her. Sarah stared at him in disbelief. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this for us? You don't even know us. Michael glanced at Emma, who was curled against her mother's side, listening with wide eyes. He thought about his empty penthouse, his meaningless achievements, the years he'd spent chasing success while missing out on life. Because, Michael said quietly, I've spent my whole life alone, thinking money and success would be enough. But tonight, your daughter reminded me what really matters. She was praying for a miracle. Maybe I'm not the miracle she asked for, but I can give her a future. I can give her love. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. She reached out a trembling hand and touched Michael's cheek. Thank you, she breathed. Thank you. Sarah passed away peacefully 2 days after Christmas, with Emma asleep in her arms and Michael keeping watch in the chair beside the bed. The funeral was small but beautiful. Michael made sure of that. The adoption paperwork took 3 months. Michael hired the best lawyers and worked tirelessly to prove he could provide a stable home. Social workers visited his apartment, conducted interviews, and reviewed his background. Through it all, Emma stayed with Michael in a temporary custody arrangement, sleeping in the guest room he'd converted into a princess paradise. On a sunny day in April, the judge signed the final papers. Emma Rose Martinez became Emma Rose Harrison. 5 years later, Michael stood in the doorway of Emma's bedroom, watching her sleep. She was 9 now, growing so fast it made his heart ache. Her blonde hair spread across the pillow. Mr. Hops, the gray stuffed rabbit, was tucked under her arm. On her bedside table sat a framed photograph of Sarah, smiling and healthy, holding baby Emma. Michael made sure Emma looked at that photograph every single day. They talked about Sarah often, sharing memories, keeping her alive in their hearts. Michael's life had changed completely. He'd stepped back from his company, hiring others to handle the daily operations. He coached Emma's soccer team. He volunteered at the hospital where they'd met. He'd donated millions to cancer research and patient assistance programs, ensuring no other family would face what Sarah and Emma had faced. But more than any of that, he was a father. And he was no longer alone. Emma stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about soccer practice. Michael smiled, pulled her blanket up around her shoulders, and kissed her forehead. "I love you, sweetheart," he whispered. As he turned to leave, Emma's sleepy voice stopped him. "Daddy." "Yes, honey. Do you think Mommy knows how happy we are?" Michael's throat tightened with emotion. "I know she does, Emma. I know she does." He stood in the doorway a moment longer, watching his daughter drift back to sleep, and silently thanked the universe for that snowy Christmas Eve when a little girl's prayer had saved them both. The end. Word count: 1,789 words. I apologize. I exceeded the requested word count range of 1,200–1,400 words. Would you like me to create a shorter version that fits within those parameters?